to take the spotlight off me for a second and invite up our panelists, because I really want you to hear from them, hear about their experiences both in the program and what they're doing now. So with that, I'd like to invite up our panelists. Come on up, guys. Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for spending this next hour with us. So I want to have you introduce yourselves. We have 3 alumni here today, 1 current student. So let's just do introductions. We'll start with Chirag. Give us your quick elevator pitch. Who are you? Why are you here?
All right. So I'm Chirag Mehta. I graduated from IEOR in 2014, so part of the MH program. I've been working with Salesforce these past couple of years. My background is originally from electrical and electronics engineering in undergrad. I did my undergrad in Dubai. Moved from Dubai straight out of college to Berkeley to do my Masters of Engineering in IEOR. Graduated out, worked in management consulting for a bit, found out that wasn't my cup of tea and I wanted to move more towards finance. Decided to go around a whole career rigmarole before I landed up doing product management at Salesforce. I'm now building a product called Financial Services Cloud. So I'm back to the industry that I was passionate about.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So my name is Laila. I'm from France and Morocco, and I did my undergrad in France in applied math and computer science. After that, I worked for a year in Australia in software engineering, so working with startups and consultancies. And then I came here to Berkeley. I'm in IEOR, and I came with the idea of wanting to start a company, which I did. And now I'm stopping that to move to probably product management or maybe sales roles. I don't know yet, but that's kind of where I'm at now.
Great, thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Amine. I am alumni from the class of 2016. I'm actually from Tunisia. I came and did my undergrad in Maryland on the East Coast, and then for my master's moved here. I studied material science and engineering, and today I'm doing something completely different, which is a trend you're going to hear a lot about. But when I graduated, I started working in an R&D center for Mercedes-Benz in the Bay. And just a few months ago, I switched to still a software engineering role, but for a new company that develops vertical takeoff and landing electrical airplanes. So something completely crazy from what I started in. And I look forward to meeting and answering questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Jili. I graduated from 2016 for mechanical engineering. And my concentration is in product design. Before I came to Berkeley, I got my undergraduate in Purdue University in Indiana, and also in mechanical engineering. So currently I work for Apple as a depth hardware engineer. So for depth hardware, it's actually the true depth camera on iPhone 10, so the Face ID. Basically, my role is like a technical lead for the whole Face ID camera sensing area. So even though I only have a mechanical engineering background, but my role requires for optical engineering and electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. So it's a like very broad role. Requires a lot of different cross-function knowledge. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Can you all just also tell us what your capstone either is or was while you were
Sure. So we worked on a project to build a product to analyze behavior sentiment using Google search query volumes to predict price market movements in ETFs, so in exchange traded funds. It was a very cool project.
So my capstone was about the startup that I was co-founding. So it's called Open House, and what we do is we create co-working communities at home. So basically, all around us, there's so much empty space in houses and apartments. And what we say is we can turn that into shared home offices for entrepreneurs. And so for my capstone, I was able to focus on that, which was time efficient as well. But we created this demand prediction algorithm to convince people that would potentially host others into their homes of the value that they could get from open house. So basically being able to say, I live here, based on that location, how much can I earn using open house?
My project was in cooperation with the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, just a few hundred meters from here. And we worked on developing a low-cost disposable battery for the developing world. So the whole idea was to basically take a clean approach to developing batteries in areas where recycling and material cost was too high. So basically, we decided to look at a way to develop a source of energy that could be fueled from off-the-shelf components, and that would be enough to basically provide basic lighting and also charge the customer's cell phone, which in developing areas is the main mean of communication and also payment. So that was a lot of fun collaborating with the National Lab just close to campus, and other students from the MH program as well.
So my capstone project is more or less related to the job I'm working on right now. So when I entered Berkeley is 2015. So at that time, the latest iPhone is iPhone 6 Plus. So that's the first iPhone which has OIS, optical image stabilizer. So when you are using your phone, the optical image stabilizer can try to compensate for your hand shaking while you're trying to take pictures. So at that time, our goal is we want to build a much better optical image stabilizer, much better than iPhone 6 Plus. So that's pretty much, we also go into mechanical design, electrical design, and optical design for the whole camera system. And actually that capstone project, because that's very related to my, my job right now, and I think that's a key point, makes me go to Apple.
Great, thank you. So before we dive into some more career-related questions, since you all moved here from other places, I would love for you to share a funny story or experience about when you first got to Berkeley. Anything, if one or two of you want to share your experiences or something funny about Berkeley, because Berkeley can be a funny place.
Sure. So the cool part about coming to Berkeley was that I remember very clearly. This was one of the first few days when I just got into Berkeley, and we had the orientation program, and we were all given these handbooks we used to have 3 groups for boot camp: Bear, Oski, and Gold. We would be given one of them. And I remember that Beth had also created a Facebook group for us to connect before we got to Berkeley. So I was one of the last people to reach that room to pick up that folder. And when I did, I turned around, and there's this one guy who turns and looks at me and says, "You're Chirag. You're one of the 3 Chirags in this batch." And I'm like, yeah, that's me. But that was the starting, and I was really worried that I would be called Chirag 1 or 2 or 3 or something, but thankfully people stuck to last names, so I was always Mehta. So yeah, but it was fun, and nobody ever got confused between us after that point.
I have a story as well. So one thing that I was really amazed by when I came here, and still am with, is how diverse people are when you meet other people in the MH especially. Everyone has a very diverse background and culture, and the culture clash might happen in funny ways sometimes. So I have a few Indian friends who called me out a few times saying, "Why are you so polite with us? I thought you were friends." And so realizing that little things like saying thank you or sorry, in my culture it's just normal, and then in other cultures it means we're not so close. So just seeing these little differences has been really interesting and kind of funny. So yeah.
Great. Anyone else have a story about Berkeley they want to share?
I can give a quick one. The first 2 weeks I was here, there were a lot of campus tours that you guys, I'm sure, will enjoy. But I didn't have time to do them. And I think it was around the 3rd week or so, I was walking to one of my classes. It was actually after my class. And I saw one of the groups that was doing a tour, and I had a few minutes on my hand. So I decided to just sneak in and just follow along, just try to hear and understand a bit more about the campus. As I did that, as soon as I approached the group, the the main person that was presenting was talking about the seals around the campus. So you're going to see these huge seals on the ground around campus. And as soon as I came in, they were about to move to another spot. But as soon as I came in, everyone just turned to me and looked at me shocked. And I thought it was because I just joined the group and they all knew each other for some reason. But later on, I actually discovered that I was standing on one of the seals. And I don't know if you know the rumors about the seals, but standing on them will not make you graduate. So just an FYI, whenever you come for the campus tour, however, I am one exception to that rule, thankfully. So don't do that mistake.
So it's interesting because this was different during my time. They would always say, don't stand on the seal. If you walk over the seal, you don't get a 4.0. So in my first semester, I was really careful not to do that, and I got all straight A's in the first semester. And then the break between the first semester, my parents were here and we were walking, and I didn't realize, and I stepped on one of those seals. And believe me or not, the next semester, there was one course that I did not get an A in. I got an A minus, so I missed that 4.0. So it's actually true.
These will be the best tips you get all day. I hope you're taking notes.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done anything like you do, but I still don't have a 4.0. So. Yeah. I think my story is very short. Like, Berkeley is like on hills. The mechanical engineering building is Ashbury, and the lobby area is actually the 3rd floor. So this once I was asking my teammates to meet me on the 1st floor of Ashbury, which is actually the 3rd floor. And we're like trying to find each other, but we cannot. Then I realized, the lobby is not always the 1st floor in Berkeley.
We like to keep you on your toes. For the next question, can you talk a little bit about what student organizations or professional clubs or even things outside of campus that you were involved in while you were here or still are here?
Maybe
Laila, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I really try to make the most out of image, but try to explore a little bit around. So I try to get involved as much as I could in the HAS Business School, taking classes there, going to events that were organized by them, because I feel like it's a different perspective and different network that you can leverage, and it's really, really good. Other than that, I guess career fairs, I went to those, especially at the beginning of the year. You can make good connections and connection is a word that you'll probably hear a lot, as Julie was saying, but just that can last a long time, even if you're not looking for a job yet. And then just I didn't get involved into organizations or clubs, but just trying to make the most out of different events that are going on. Yeah, that was kind of my strategy, kind of picking in every basket I could.
Great. Amine?
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo Laila on this. Most of my time was around career fairs. Coming from the East Coast, we didn't have the wealth of companies you're going to see here. That I can guarantee. So it was really something that I tried to take full advantage of all the way. You're definitely going to see the big brands. You've seen them on the presentation already. Another club I joined when I was here was the Hyperloop Team. I'm sure most of you know what that is, but it was a project started by SpaceX. And there was a Berkeley group for that, and that was a lot of fun, developing something as crazy as that. And I think, most of my time was just, since it's a one-year program, you really want to make sure to go to all the career fairs, and the Hyperloop one was the only one that I could go to and still keep my balance with the other things I had to do.
Yeah, we have students join the Hyperloop team every year. It's one of the most active teams nationally.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Jili?
Yeah, so I do have a similar experience as them. Like, I also attend some HAS business school classes. And I think for the Master of Engineering program, since it's only 1 year, I think you should make good use of the 1 year time to explore different area other than engineering. HAS Business School is like top business school, even in the United States. And you can actually see different views by talking to people who have different background, like people who are pursuing MBA degrees. So the class I was in, we actually developed smart PO box. So we are targeting for elderly people who cannot remember, like, if they have a lot of different diseases that they have to take a bunch of pills every day, they're probably going to forget, like, which pills I need to take. So we want to develop a smart PO box for elderly people. And I think it's also coming from our background, like we have grandparents who have this problem and they do need this kind of help. And we finally come up with the prototype, and very recently this investor actually approached us asking whether we want to commercialize it. I would say besides engineering, always try to do something different, like something really motivates you. If you want to help people, just work on those projects to help people. And you don't know where the future opportunities can come from. It's not always at current. A lot of time is in the future.
Thank you. Chirag?
So Haas, yes, fantastic opportunity to go and take a few courses across at Haas. I did the same. There was one thing, so for all of those you nuts for management consulting, if you want to break into consulting, there's this really awesome course that they used to run in Math and Statistics department called Statistical Consulting Consortium. I believe they might have changed the name now, but it's pretty cool because you get to learn how you can use the same skills of math and statistics that you've learned pretty much all your lives as engineers to solve real-world business problems, and that's pretty helpful. Apart from that, if you really are into math, and I was a nerd, total big nerd at that time, I was also a part of Society of Industrial and Applied Math. It's an awesome society, and you get to meet a bunch of great people, both current students as well as alumni.
Great, thank you.
I did forget to mention, so for more entrepreneurial kind of aspects, there's also a lot of resources on campus. So you have something called The House, which is a startup incubator, and they have a student founder program. So if you're either founding a company or just simply are looking to be exposed to the entrepreneurial scene on campus, you can apply and kind of have access to their space and go to their events and kind of meet the startups that are working there. There's also the Big Ideas contest, which is basically if you have an idea, and not even necessarily a company, but an idea that you want to submit and pitch to a number of people, you can do that. And there are a lot of resources that you can access like these ones. I would say before coming, make sure that you kind of go through all the different websites and sub-websites that there are related to Berkeley, because there are a lot based on your interests, and kind of target, okay, this year I really want to take a peek at this, take a peek at that, and make it happen.
Great, thank you. And you worked with House for a little bit.
Yeah.
And we try to organize some of these resources through our online portal. So again, I mentioned working with students over the summer, and we have industry guides and lists of these resources, so you can try and get organized over the summer, because we realize once you get here, you're very busy. So I have one more question, and then I'm going to open it up to all of you, to the panelists. So I just want you to quickly talk about what your job search process was like, and maybe one takeaway tip for interviewing while you're in the program. Jili, do you want to start?
Oh, yeah, sure. I would say definitely go to as much career fairs as you can. If like targeting ideal company is very important, but also talking to different companies is also very important to help you understand like what is going on in the job market. And another thing I do think is very important for me, at least, I would say working on things you do like. While I was in Berkeley, I was working on the capstone project. I really enjoy working on cameras. So I basically targeted on, I want to working on consumer electronics for cameras. So I'm trying to reach to people in Apple, in Amazon 126, for any of those big companies, they making camera-related projects. So I would say always trying to reach to people and ask for refer is much easier than you just submit your resume online. Yep.
Great, thank you. Amine?
Yeah, definitely agree with the last part. For me, it was especially harder because I studied material science for undergrad and graduate, and to be honest, I love the field itself, but I did not want to work in a lab for the rest of my life, or didn't want to do a PhD. I loved learning about it, but when it came to actually working in the field, I wasn't that thrilled. So I knew that I wanted to make some sort of shift in my career path. And so, going to these career fairs was really hard just because I couldn't sell myself as, someone that wanted to do software coming from a material science degree. So my recommendation, if you're in the same spot as me and what ended up working with me, was just trying to connect with people on LinkedIn that either have a similar path like yours, so started from something completely different and ended up in something you really enjoy, or someone that a place that's where they do something you really enjoy and want to learn a lot more about, and just reach out to these people through different channels. I wouldn't, of course, submitting a resumes on a website can be a good thing, but if I were to place, all my money on one thing, it would be just contact and reach out to people. It's the cold calls that end up working most of the time, and it's a numbers game. So if you reach out to 100 people, you might get ignored by 99 of them, but that one person will give you feedback, and that's the step you need to get your first job. So that's the advice I have.
One takeaway for me, I'd say, is embrace the job search. It doesn't have to be painful, and the reason I say that is it doesn't stop with getting a job, and you're actually making a lot of very, very useful connections while interviewing and while getting no's, because then you can come back to those people 6 months from then, tell them all that you've learned since you've interviewed, and then they're much more open to having a conversation with you because they start to know you and follow your process. So I think my one takeaway is the job search is not, getting a job is almost not what you're gonna get most out of a job search, and making your network through the job search is really, really useful. So yeah, just always ask for feedback and accept that you're gonna get a lot of no's. Ask why and keep in touch, because then 6 months from then or 2 years from then, you might just get back and get a job right away, just because it's much easier when you have that connection.
I think these guys have covered it all, but really what helped me when I was looking for a job was an advice that somebody gave me, when I was probably absolutely broken from looking for a job. It was 3 Ps, and I'm going to pass that on to you. So the first P is practice. Go and do as many practice interviews as you can. Use your career services resources, Jili and her team, to do as many mock interviews and resume reviews as much as you can until you feel completely confident. And then, as she said, go and practice in real life, right? So you can never, simulate an interview until you've actually gone into one and experienced it yourself. The second P is don't procrastinate. Start on day one. Start thinking about what you would do, because it's not that you need to do it on day one or try to get a job in the fall semester. It's more that you need to be on top of it, and that 30 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day from the beginning adds up as you go through the 9 months here, rather than just going into a crazy hyperdrive at the end of your fall semester or towards the beginning of your spring semester. And the third P is basically, that happens to me a lot these days. I think I'm getting Alzheimer's. I'm just kidding.
Prepare?
Yeah, prepare. Absolutely. Go prepare. Be on point, practice, and just go get it. Okay, I'm going to add a 4th P there. Patience. Patience is the right one. Be patient, you'll get it. You sure will. Yeah.
I like that. I wrote it down. Wonderful. So I'd like to open it up to the audience. Questions for myself or our panelists. Now is your chance. So ask us what you've been wondering. I see one back there.
Hello, I have a question for Laila. So personally, I'm also interested in the entrepreneurship. So what's your experience like starting your own company?
Yeah, sure. So what happened was my co-founder had the idea and she was working on it during the first semester. She approached me and asked me to join, and I thought it was a really cool idea. So I said yes. And so I started in December and basically kind of ran full-time at the same time as being a full-time student, which was challenging, but I learned so many things about what it is like to actually do it, and you never know until you actually go through it. There are so many resources here that can help you. We had access to many mentors that kind of put us in the right direction, put us in touch with potential investors. Yeah, and then it was just the day-to-day of trying to integrate the image into the startup and the startup into the image. And one thing that I really loved about the image was that they realized, and that's really rare, I think, they realized that everyone has a single path, so you can customize it for you to make sense for you. And they had that flexibility to enable me to do that. So yeah, it was a really great experience. And I'd add one thing, I think. It's really cool to do it while you're a student, because the risks for me were so low. I did that for a semester. I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And that's basically it. I didn't sacrifice anything. I didn't sacrifice a job or say no to anything else. So if you want to give it a go, do it while you're a student, because you're risking so much less than when you're out there, I'd say.
Any more questions?
Just kind of a general question. What are the skills that you learned in the MEng that you see yourself using the most now professionally?
Very straightforward. So basically, as engineers, when we start off, we are very, very technically focused. We know what we're talking about. We know the technical aspects of it. If somebody asks us to solve a problem, we can do it. The one thing that I think this program really mentors you towards is being able to voice your thoughts out in a very lucid format, so that you can communicate efficiently as well as in the least amount of words that you need. I think Dr. Bailey, who sits right in front of me in the first row, he was the guy who literally drove me through all of those exercises, and I thank him for that today, because last week I was in Barcelona presenting to 400 people in front of me, and I could do it for 3.5 hours. I kept speaking, and at the end of it, people just stood up and clapped. So that's the power of Berkeley. That's the power of the MEng program, I would say.
Great, mic drop. Right there, we're done. Any other questions? Yeah.
I got one. I got a question for Jili. So I'm also thinking of taking classes from Hess Business School of Business, and so I've seen it on LinkedIn. The Alumni Han Jing, which is for Forbes 30 on 30. He's got a certificate of management of technology and entrepreneurship and innovation. So for Jili, did you also think of those, or did you also get any of these certificates? And what do you think of management of your time compared to the technical courses? And so what do you think is helpful for job searching when you have the experience of taking a business courses?
First of all, it does help you like develop your communication skills, make you talk more fluently. That's one thing. Second thing is like, because we all have engineering background, like he just said, we are all very good at solving a problem. If someone gives us some problem, like solve it, we're gonna go ahead and solve it. But especially for a lot of situations, say for my work in Apple, a lot of time is the problem itself is not clear enough. You even don't know what the problem is. You just know, wow, I probably have a super high risk, but what I should do. So at this time, you should have, what you can learn from those HAS classes is, you should not only focusing on engineering background, engineering classes, but also say for one product, what does it look like in the market, and what it is look like in the future. You need to have a big view of things you're really interested in. when you have a big view, then you really have inner motivation of what you should working on. So I think that's one thing has actually taught me. I think it's very, very important for even for developing your engineering career. If you just want to become a good engineer, but if you want to make more impact as an engineer, you should still be have a very good understanding of the stuff you have passion on. What's the marketing and what's the future? What do you think the future is? How do you define the future?
Great, thank you.
I'm curious if anyone of you also come straight from undergraduate study. Yeah, so I'm curious what you did for the summer before this program, or even if you were working, or just thinking back, what do you think you could have done to better prepare for this program? Because I think a lot of recurring theme I heard for today is this program is so short that how do you make the best out of this within 8 months? So is there anything you advise us to do in this summer to better prepare for?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of stuff that you can really do depending on what course you're getting into. For me, it was IEOR. So I wanted to brush up on my programming skills, specifically in the statistical side. So I learned R. For you, it may be something different, but it's always good to learn some skill that you might build upon while you're in Berkeley. At the same time, it's always good to learn things like decision analytics. How do you make correct decisions in life? And it's always good to brush up on your vocabulary and your speaking skills if you feel a little bit shy in that regard. I definitely did that.
Chirag, did you take a class in R, or were you self-taught? I know some students will do a Coursera before the program, or was there a specific site that you used?
Yeah, so there's a ton of resources available on the internet today. When I came here, I had a book. I forget the author's name, but it was a really good book, which was basically about the basics of R. And if you want to learn Python, you've got resources for that. If you want to go learn C, there's a bunch of resources available out there. And Coursera, I found in more recent years, has been very helpful. They've got some really good content out there, so give it a shot.
Okay, great. I think we have time for one more question. Is there a last question out there?
You talked about career fair going frequently as much as we can. So apart from that, what's the best and the efficient way actually to look for a job? Do you write a lot of email, or do you just pick the phone and call to them? That's my first question. The second question is, is it common to take courses from law school, or just take courses from Haas Business School? Yep.
So for the first question, your first question was, what's the most efficient way to look for a job, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd say have a combination of a lot of different things is better than just focusing on one thing. If you go to some career fairs, not necessarily all of them, and prepare before you go. Don't just say, oh, today is a career fair, I'll just go. Because there are a lot of people and a lot of companies. So if you can look who's going, what type of company are you kind of interested in or maybe interested in, and target those, then that's more efficient than spending 5 hours just going around and getting goodies and that's it. Try to go as well to networking events that are smaller and more intimate, whether it's in the MNG or in the Bay Area. There would be a lot of these. You can look on Meetup if you're not sure of what you want to do, and there are always general themed meetups that you can go to. And I'd say talk to people as much as you can is my final answer. You never know what you're going to get out of it, so just getting genuinely interested in what people have done before, what's their background, what they're interested in, and sharing that as well on your end. It can make some really rare and kind of unexpected connections that will, I think, get you to find the job that you really want after. I forgot what the second question was.
Law school.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure for the law school. I think that we are allowed to take law, law classes as well. For me, I didn't really try to do that. There is, for startups, again, so I'm slightly biased, but there are There's a workshop that goes through the semester focused on startups and law. So everything that's incorporation, raising funds, all these kind of things that you can participate to. Otherwise, I think, I'm not sure for the law school.
Yeah, like Laila said, you can't take classes at Bolt School of Law, but there are classes that will incorporate law, whether it's with startups, there's classes with IP. There are some undergraduate classes, just based on interests that you can look for, but not at Bolt. There's some Haas classes that are cross-listed for MEng students, and so that's a little bit more open.
Yeah, and then you can always have a look at the classes that you're interested in, email the professor, maybe you can audit the class. It's always about, if you're interested in something, I always think you never lose anything in asking. Worst case is you get a no. So, yeah.
Make friends with the LLM folks or the JD folks. Your peers are your best resources to learn always. My entire group here was 5 MN students and 7 lawyers. So we were 12 of us, out of which 7 people were lawyers. So yeah, you do that legal speak tends to rub off on you in a bit.
Great, thank you. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed your day today. It was certainly been a pleasure to meet all of you, answer your questions, get to know you a little bit. There will be a reception following this, so if you want to ask some one-on-one questions, our student panelists will be here, the staff will be here, one another, get to know one another a little bit. After that, if you still have questions, feel free to email us. We're always here. We know you have a very tough decision to make, what your next step will be. I'm a little biased, of course. I think it should be here. But with that, in all seriousness, we want to help you and answer your questions. And we hope to see you here in the fall. Thank you very much.